Hello, I'm Jeslyn Wheeless, welcoming you to Serendipity, the Summit Library program we have weekly that is for kids who are in kindergarten through 5th grade. We have stories and songs every week and a craft. And in addition, we often have puppet shows, plays, and maybe even a radio program. Today's program is about heroes and heroines. They are people who are strong and brave and always try to do the right thing, even if it's very difficult. They always try to help others. Now, the hero we're going to talk about today is Robin Hood, and two heroines are Lucia Zenteno and Beatrix, who loves her beautiful cow, Goethe. And now, come with me. Come follow me as we go to Sherwood Forest. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to tune in to your favorite radio station, WGBIT, Go Back in Time. And here, for your listening pleasure, is your favorite radio announcer, JJ Wheels. Hello, everyone out there listening on your radios. We have an exciting radio show for you today as we go back in time more than 500 years to interview Robin Hood in the studio first and then follow him out to Sherwood Forest for on-the-scene reporting. And here is Robin Hood now entering the studio wearing all green clothing and a spiffy green hat with a feather. Hello to you, Robin Hood, sir. Now just speak right into the microphone. Hello, everyone. I am called Robin Hood, and I used to have a fine house and land here in merry old England. But bad things began to happen when King Richard the Lionheart left England to travel to distant lands. When he left, his brother, the bad and evil Prince John, ruled the land in his place. Thank you, Robin. We'll talk to you again later. Prince John had the really bad Sheriff of Nottingham do all the dirty work for him. I'm getting a call now, and here's the sheriff to speak to us. Hello, Sheriff. You're on speakerphone.
I am the really bad Sheriff of Nottingham, and I love my job. I go around with my soldiers making people unhappy and upset. I am a liar and a thief. When I wanted Robin Hood's beautiful house and land for myself to live in. I decided and declared that Robin was now an outlaw, which means a criminal, and he wasn't allowed to come into the town of Nottingham anymore, or I would put him in prison. So now I live in his house, and it's mine, all mine. So that is why I, Robin Hood, have to live in Sherwood Forest as if I were a criminal, an outlaw. But I have made a fine camp there, and I have many friends who have joined me. I call them my merry men. When a rich person, a knight or merchant, comes through Sherwood Forest, we capture him, take him to our camp, and share a good meal with him. If we find that he is rich and selfish, then we take some of his money and give it to the poor. If we find that he is a rich man who cares for others and is generous, we send him on his way. Listeners out there in Radio Land, long ago in Mexico, there lived a woman whose name was Lucia Zenteno. She journeyed from village to village, and in this story, let's see what happened. On the day that Lucia Zenteno walked into the village, all the people stared at her. They couldn't help themselves. They had never seen anyone so unusual. She had long, black, shining hair, and on her full skirts were thousands of butterflies and flowers. By her side walked her loyal iguana, and she smiled and said hello to everyone she passed. Oh, some of the people said, the older people said, her hair is so shiny. It outshines the sun. But others said, her hair is too shiny. I never saw hair like that. It almost blocks the sun. Every day, Lucia Zenteno would go down to the river to bathe. And when she stepped into the river fell in love with her. And the river would rise up and fill up her long black hair, along with all the creatures of the river, the fish and the otters. And when she was through bathing, she would sit beside the river and comb out her long hair with a comb made of mesquite wood. And then all the water and the creatures of the river would go right back where they belonged. When the people of the village saw this happening, some of them, the older people, said, "Look at that. Lucia Zenteno knows the ways of nature. Even the river falls in love with her." But other people said, "I've never seen anything like that before. She must be using some kind of black magic. She could use that magic against us to hurt some of us." And the people began to gossip about her behind her back, and they stopped saying hello to her when she smiled and said her friendly hello. They gossiped behind her back and spied on her. One day, they all decided that she must leave their village. And so, Lucia went down to the river to bathe one last time and say goodbye. The river and the creatures of the river rose up into her long black hair. But when she tried to comb her hair out, the river would not go. It could not say goodbye to Lucia. And so when she and her loyal iguana left the village, the river and all the creatures of the river went with her. The people could not believe their eyes. They never imagined their river would leave them no matter what they did. And then a drought fell upon the land when there was no rain. The people had no water to water their crops,
to give water to their animals, to bathe, to drink, they became very afraid. They began to talk amongst themselves. They said, "We should never have told Lucia Zenteno to leave our village. She knew the ways of nature. We must find her and beg her to come back and bring our river back to us." And so they all set out to find her. It took them a long time, but finally they did find her deep in a cave with her back to the people. The older people were too ashamed to enter the cave, but the children rushed in and said, "Oh, Lucia Zenteno, please, will you please forgive us for being so cruel to you? We are very sorry. Will you come back to us and bring our river back?" She looked at their little faces and saw how worried and concerned they were. And she said, "Yes." She wanted everyone to hear what she was saying. She stepped out to the mouth of the cave and she said, "I will come back to your village and bring your river back to you if you promise me something." "Anything," the people said, "anything." "Then I want you to be more like the river. Whoever comes to bathe or drink from the river, whatever kind of person or whatever kind of animal or insect, the river accepts them all, turns no one away, even if they are very different. That is the way I want you to be from now on." And the people promised that they would remember what she told them and would do as she asked. And so Lucia and her loyal iguana strode back to the village with everyone following behind. She sat down beside the riverbed and combed out her long black hair. And the river and all the creatures of the river flowed back down into the riverbed where they belonged. Oh, the people were so joyful. The children jumped into the water and splashed each other and swam. The older people dipped out the water to drink, and they gave drinks to their animals, and they watered their crops. The people were so joyful. It was such a joyful celebration that no one seemed to notice when Lucia left the village. At last the children said, "Where is Lucia?" And the older people said, "I believe she has gone on to another village so that she can show them what she has shown us here today." And this is the legend of Lucia Zenteno.
Whither shall I follow, follow thee? Whither shall I follow, follow thee? To the greenwood, to the greenwood, to the greenwood, greenwood tree. Come, follow, 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 come, follow, follow me. Whither shall I follow, follow thee? Whither shall I follow, follow thee? To the greenwood, to the greenwood, to the greenwood, the greenwood tree.
The next book is one of my favorites. It's entitled Rude Giants, and story and pictures are by Audrey Wood. I like it because one of the reasons I like it is because the heroine is little and the story is very funny. Long ago, Beatrix the Buttermaid and her best friend Gerda the cow lived in a cozy cottage in a happy valley. Every morning after tea, Beatrix served Gerda the freshest yellow hay, and Gerda gave Beatrix the sweetest milk to make into butter and sell at the market. The girl and the cow never had a care in the world until one day 2 rude giants came over the mountains and moved into the empty castle on the hill. The rude giants were clumsy, loud, and selfish. They trampled the flowers, quarreled until the birds stopped singing, and stole whatever they wanted from whomever they pleased. What will those rude giants do next? The villagers wondered. But life must go on, giants or not. So, on market day, as usual, Beatrix the Buttermaid and Gerda the cow set off for the market to sell their butter. They hadn't traveled far when a great hand reached down and scooped Gerda up into the sky. "Yum!" the giantess bellowed. "Food!" Beatrix jumped onto one of the giant's shoes and held on tight. Thump, thump, thump. In 3 giant steps, the giantess returned to the castle and tossed Gerda onto a table before her husband. Quickly, the Buttermaid climbed up the table leg and pulled herself onto the top. "Stop!" Beatrix exclaimed. "You can't eat the finest cow in all the land." "Huh?" the rude giant said. "Why not?" "Because," the Buttermaid answered, "you don't know how to make her taste delicious." "Tell us how," the rude giant shouted. "Why, just look at this messy place," Beatrix scolded. "Everyone knows a good meal tastes better in a clean castle." "Clean?" the giant said. "What's that?" Beatrix the Buttermaid told the giants what to do. They swept and scrubbed, junked the junk, and put everything back in its proper place. The rude giants worked so hard they were hungrier than ever. "Cow!" they bellowed, reaching for Gerda. "We want cow!" "Moo!" Gerda said. "Stop!" Beatrix exclaimed. "How can you think about eating the finest cow in all the land if you don't have manners? Everyone knows a lack of good manners ruins a good meal." "Manners?" the rude giant shouted. "Show us manners, or we'll squish you flat." Beatrix the Buttermaid told the giants what to do. They learned how to speak in pleasant voices, take tiny bites, and sip, not slurp. Boom, 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 the giants' stomachs rumbled like thunder beyond the mountains. "We eat cow now," they shouted, forgetting their manners. The rude giants reached for Gerda. "Moo, moo," Gerda cried. "Not yet," Beatrix the Buttermaid exclaimed. "If you are going to eat the finest cow in all the land, there's still one more thing you must do to make her taste delicious." "Tell us, please," the rude giant said, trying to be polite. "Oh, please tell us." "You must make yourselves beautiful," the Buttermaid said. "Beautiful?" the giants exclaimed. "What's that?" "Give Gerda to me," Beatrix said, "and we will show you how." The Buttermaid and the cow worked together. They filled a tub with water and told the giants how to take a bubble bath. They curled and combed the giant's hair in fancy ways. Then they sewed the softest cloth into lovely outfits. "Now just look at yourselves," the Buttermaid said. "How could 2 beautiful giants like you
who live in a clean castle and have good manners, eat my dear friend Gerda the cow."
The giants peered into the mirror. They couldn't believe their eyes.
The giantess fluttered her long eyelashes and smiled sweetly. The giant smoothed back his glistening hair and raised one giant eyebrow.
"My dear," he said to his giant wife, "you look simply divine."
"And you," she said to her giant husband,
"look handsome indeed."
"Moo," Gerda said in her sweetest voice. The giants looked at the cow. Their giant stomachs growled as they licked their giant lips. Bending down low, they whispered in the Buttermaid's ear,
"Hungry. We are still very hungry. What are we to do?"
Beatrix knew what to do. She left the castle, hurried to the village, and rang the bells. From far and near, the villagers gathered around. That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, the Buttermaid led the villagers up the path to the giant's castle. Everyone brought something from home. With a pot of this and a jug of that, there was plenty for all.
"From now on," the giant proclaimed, "we'll have a party every week."
"And all our friends are invited," the giantess agreed. Now the giants were very happy. In time, they had a giant baby. Much to their surprise, the child soon grew to be ruder than they ever had been. Of course, they knew what to do. The giants sent their rude child to the finest teachers in all the land, Beatrix the Buttermaid and Gerda the cow. And that is the story of the rude giants. This might be a book you'd like to check out sometimes and read again. Thank you.